Keegan Harris, you work in the financial industry helping people with their personal finances, and you just wrote a book called Wisdom to Wealth, a guide for building and sustaining wealth. Keegan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So congratulations on your first book. I check it out in Amazon. It looks very enticing, and of course, that was the reason why I reached out to you. And as I see, it's a framework for building wealth from zero onto manage learning how to build a legacy later on in life. But before we get into the depths of your books, can you tell us a little bit about you? How do you become interested in personal finance?
Yeah, so my original background really starts in construction. My family owned a small construction company over the last 30 plus years. And so when I got old enough, I actually worked in construction and really enjoyed it and thought that that's where my path was going to take me. And so I had worked in construction for about 14 years. And then I don't know if you remember, but we had a giant financial recession and housing bust and that type of thing. And that really changed the dynamics of the construction industry, of course, and affected what I was doing in the construction industry. And as our work that was available to us started to slow down, I realized I had this incredible passion for finance. And I saw an opportunity to work for a small local bank. And I applied to that job and I actually got it. And so that's what really kind of thrusted me into the financial industry and allowed me to pursue my passion for helping people with finance.
How do you discover that passion for finance?
You know, several years ago, I was actually struggling with money. And the reason I was struggling is because I was just spending it as fast as I was getting it.
As you
I
should.
not if you want to build wealth,
Right. But
but
that's the perception that we have. I mean, you make your money and you spend it because you want to help out the economy. Why not?
exactly. And you not only want to help the economy, but you want to help yourself by, getting that big screen TV, the new iPhone, all that type of stuff, right? And that's the life I was living. I was just a total consumer. I had, a pretty good idea of what money was going out, but I was not paying attention to my money at all. I wasn't doing a budget. I wasn't forecasting. I wasn't really going through my bank statements or my bills or anything like that. And I had worked for about 2 years. And at this time, I was working in construction. And after this 2 year period, I realized that I had almost zero savings. I mean, it was a little bit, but it was completely pathetic to what I should have had, considering, the wages I was making and the income that I had coming in. And quite frankly, I got really frustrated with myself. I was just disgusted because at the time I was working 70 plus hour weeks at my job. And, I thought to myself, how could I have just worked so much over the last 2 years and have almost nothing to show for it? And so that was when the light bulb went off for me. And I thought to myself, I have to create a plan. And that's when I really dove into studying different people who were financially successful. I really dove into different programs like Dave Ramsey's program he has, and started reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that type of stuff. And so that was kind of the pivotal moment for me where I had to realize that I needed to do something different because what I was doing was obviously not working. And as I started to create this plan, I'm a very linear thinker. So I think like step one, do this, step two, do this. And so as I was creating that plan for myself, that's when I actually started to write the book. And after starting creating this plan, I was like, you know what? There's other people out there who are probably in the same shoes that I'm in and could really benefit from this book. So that was kind of the inspiration behind the book and how I got started.
And would you say that your situation of working all kind of hours and then spending the money as it came in is the situation that applies to most Americans? I mean, this is our consumerism mind, and I think we don't know any better. You think this is we're being programmed to just work and spend?
I kind of do. And one of the reasons I think that is because if you take a hard look at where the educational resources are for somebody to learn about building wealth, they have to go out there and pursue that. Because most times it's not necessarily something that parents really do a good job teaching their kids about. And probably because parents, quite frankly, don't know that much about finance themselves. But number two, personal finance isn't really something taught in the normal school system. And even further education, like at the universities, personal finance isn't really a big topic. You know, sure, there's economics and business and that type of stuff, but for the most part, learning about personal finance is something that a lot of people don't come into contact with in a normal avenue like school or through people they know. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people probably aren't that educated in the area of personal finance and struggle with that consumer mindset.
Right. We are in the times of the coronavirus, and now, fortunately, a vaccine has been discovered. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were discussing all the conspiracy theories out there. Okay. And one of the conspiracy theories is that, I don't know, Bill Gates wants to give this vaccine to us so we can become economic ships and do as the big corporations tell us to do. And I was saying to my friend, well, we are already there, because let's say Apple comes out with a new iPhone. There's going to be a whole bunch of people waiting in line for 1, 2, or even 3 days, borrowing money that they don't have to buy the latest iPhone. So there's no way that we could be more manipulated than that. And let's say, I don't know, Hermes, the bag, luxury bag, they charge $5,000 for a bag. And the clients just put their names ahead of time to and to buy those bags, and this is money that they don't have. So I don't think we could be any more manipulated than what we are already. I just saw that was my argument to debunk the conspiracy theory that Bill Gates wants to put the vaccine on us to make us bigger consumers.
That's a really valid point. I think Microsoft's doing enough in revenue globally that he probably doesn't need another money source.
Okay, so you will discover your difficult financial situation. You started to make up a program for you, and you also started working for a bank. What was your job at the bank, and also how were you educating yourself in regards to finance?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, working at the bank, I first started as a loan officer and then eventually became a loan officer and a branch manager. And then to answer your second question, one of the greatest ways I found about learning for personal finance was to actually work with people who have won with money and to get to interview them and really dive down into their situations with them and talk about and look at what they've done over the years to become successful. There are a lot of people in my community, and I live in a small farming community. There's a lot of people you would run into at a store who are multimillionaires, and you would never know it because they've got their farm clothes on, they're dirty, they drive an old beat up Ford F-150 pickup, and you would never know that they're a multimillionaire. But guess what? They are. And there's some incredibly valuable lessons that I've had the opportunity to learn over the years from those people about being smart with your money, about investing, about being frugal. And it's completely shaped the way I think about money. And hopefully, I've been able to incorporate some of those ideas into my book, Wisdom to Wealth.
Wow, that reminds me of my landlord. My landlord, he owns 100 properties. And
Whoa.
every time that I see him, he comes in his old raggedy car, in all dirty clothes, dirty fingernails. And but he tells me about all his properties that he has, not only in Canada, but in Florida and in some other states in the States.
Wow.
And yeah, you don't have to flash your wealth in order to have it and enjoy it. And there's the people who drive the regular Mercedes Benz who is leased, and they live paycheck to paycheck. And I guess you have seen that in working for a bank.
You know, I've seen some incredible situations. I've seen people who make $400,000 a year as a surgeon, and they are literally living paycheck to paycheck. And they've got, you know, 3 or 4 leased cars. They've got different apartments in different states and cities, and their expenses are so high that they're actually not building wealth because they have so much debt and so many payments. So you're absolutely right.
Okay, so now you started putting together this book. Can you tell us what can we hope to find in the book?
Yeah. So the book is something that I hope people can get a real basic sense of how to build and sustain wealth. And the way I go about doing that and teaching that in the book is I go over different wealth building principles. And granted, they're very basic principles, but sometimes these things are tough to do. It's like going on a diet and losing weight. Like everybody really knows how to get in better shape and lose weight, you know, like eat less junk food and exercise, right? But sometimes that's actually harder to do than it is just to say. And so my hope is that I can kind of lead people down this path of building wealth, but giving them some really helpful tools and resources in order to do that.
And okay, so you are a construction worker, and your family is a construction worker, and writing a book requires some skills. How did someone help you? Do you take some writing classes? What was the process of writing the book?
So I just have to let you know, I am a horrible writer. I mean, terrible. I am probably the worst speller on the face of the planet. I kid you not. If it wasn't for word processing and spell check, there would be no hope for me. But I did get a lot of help. What I did is I tried to get my ideas down and organized as best as possible. I am not a good writer, but what I am really good at is creating systems. I can create amazing systems, and that's how I believe I can really help people with their finances is through my system. Now, the help I got was from my amazing wife. She did a lot of editing for me. She read through the book, helped me to organize it in a way that was halfway readable. And then I also had it professionally edited and then professionally proofread. So those things also really helped me out as well to to create a book that people would actually want to read.
And your wife didn't divorce you after seeing all those? I believe I lost my girlfriend, and I think that's why she left me from reading my blog post and discovering all my mistakes. Okay, that's just kidding. Okay, well, no, congratulations. So, can you tell us a little bit of the path to build wealth that you highlight in your book?
You bet. So, one of the first basic areas I believe in building wealth is to create income, right? And not only to create income, but you want to maximize your income. So, for some people, for me, take me for example, I was working in construction for a long period, was enjoying it, but eventually I got to this place where I wasn't really making a lot of money. There wasn't a lot of work out there and I needed to do something different. So I pivoted in my life and turned to finance where I could make more money more consistently. And so that's one thing I talk about in the book is not only being able to make money, but trying to figure out different ways to increase your income. So there's income. The other aspect of building wealth, of course, is saving. You have to not spend all your money if you want to build wealth, right? That totally goes back to what we were just talking about. And so looking at ways you can divert money from buying that big screen TV or the new iPhone or whatever it is to instead sending that money to investments. And that kind of takes me to the third basic principle that I talk about in the book is growing investments. And as you know, you've worked in the financial industry before. There's a million different investments out there, right? And so there's different things that probably work better for different people. I have a friend who is a farmer, and he will not invest in stocks to save his life. He does not believe in investing in stocks at all. But this guy has done probably better than any other guy I know. And he's been incredibly successful with his own fruit business. And he owns several different investment properties and rentals and things like that. But for him, stocks and mutual funds, he's not going to have anything to do with that. However, somebody else, they don't want to start a business. They don't want to have a farm. They don't want to have rental properties. But guess what? Mutual funds might be a really great source for them to invest into. And so there's different investments out there. And in the book, I try to encourage people not only to look at different investments that might work well for them, but also to try to figure out how to maximize their ability to contribute to those investments. So I believe in budgets. I'm a budgeter, and I tell people that the cornerstone of building wealth is a budget. You have to have a budget to build wealth. And really, a budget is basically a plan for your money. I think if you don't have a plan for your money is just going to dissipate and disappear, right? And that's how I was several years ago when I was struggling with money. I didn't have a budget. I didn't have a plan with my money, and it just kind of left, and I didn't know where it went. And so budgeting is part of the components that I also really talk about in the book as well.
Okay, and you talk also about debt, about and creating a plan, and about legacy. Can you tell us more about legacy?
Yeah, you bet. Legacy is one of those areas of wealth that I feel like I'm really passionate about. And I think the reason is because I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize that all of that work that I did my whole life was for nothing. I want that work to be worth something. And one of the ways I can make that work worth something is, of course, not only to help people with finances and help them in their own lives, but I think by building wealth and having financial resources, you can truly bless people's lives, whether that's contributing to your local community, different outreach programs, contributing to your local church, contributing to local educational programs, and of course, helping your family with different things. Like I plan on someday helping my kids with going to school, maybe going to college, or maybe even helping them out with that down payment to their house. But I want all of my work that I've been doing to actually be able to help somebody and do something significant. And that's what I think legacy is about.
Wow, this is amazing. Okay, well, can you tell us one more time the title of the book and the website where people can find you?
Yeah, you bet. So the title of the book is Wisdom to Wealth, and the website where they can learn more about that is wisdomtowealthbook.com.